exactly. Yeah, Natalie Dawson says random people doing random things create random results. And do I want random results in my business, or do I want predictable results in my business?
And welcome back to the Money, the Mindset, and the Mentoring podcast. Today, we're super excited to have Russell Wahl with us of Blue Collar Business Engineers. And Russell, it's super exciting to have you because we have a very similar shared backstory on some of the things that we went through. I think yours is has a little bit more punch, but the idea of being able to come out of massive adversity and go to where you are today, but do that in a space that already is it's one of the toughest spaces to be successful in, which is the blue collar space. And I give so much credit to people who can build a business there. And I'm really excited for you to share some of those things that have been able to allow you to create a successful enterprise with the Sonoma County carpentry business and with your consulting business. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me, man.
So talk to me, man. I want to get a little bit deeper into, the beginnings, sort of what got you into the blue collar world, and kind of start from that perspective.
Yeah. So what got me into the blue collar world was my dad was a general contractor, and he spent a lot of time running the business, or I should say that the business ran him, because he just didn't know what he didn't know. And there was a lot of missed opportunities in like spending time with my dad because the business was important, and that leveraging other people and learning how to leadership and learning the skills of setting standard operating procedures and creating an actual business just wasn't in his capability. And I followed in the same footsteps for quite some time until I had my wife was diagnosed with leukemia, and I couldn't be on a job site. It was the middle of the pandemic, and I was doing first grade Zoom school with my daughter and dropping my wife off to do chemo treatments. And so my ability to be the guy that was physically doing the work on the job site became unavailable. And I got the opportunity to learn how to lead people and create a business, because it was either that or rely on the government. And I didn't think that was a good bet.
No, definitely not. So let's talk about that transition, because you went through your similar story. I got into the construction space as well through my father. Similar story is that I learned all the awesome things about psychometric graph and about fluid dynamics and all these amazing things about the trade of HVAC. That's the space that we were in, and you probably learned a lot of those similar ones. The thing that was the missing gap, like what was the thing that you're like that kind of kept you in that? Was it the idea that you didn't realize that leading people was important, or was it that it just strategically you couldn't figure out the way?
The ego, my ego, needing to do it myself, right? Like needing to prove that I was the best at doing it, and then not trusting that anybody could do it as good as I could do it, and not being a team player, and not, not having, trust in others it's like, in order to build an amazing team, you got to trust yourself first of all. And then from there, then you can actually lead others and trust them. Yeah. Because you have set up a system for them, for them to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a tough one. And you see that actually pretty rife in a lot of industries, trades for sure, because you spend so much time in trade school, or even if you're not in trade school, just through learning the craft, and you become very proud about the specific craft. And that becomes sort of, I think, part of your DNA of that. I can do this better than anybody.
Exactly. And so what happens in a lot of trades, and a lot of guys out there, is they're great technicians. They're great at what they do with the technical skills of being in HVAC or plumbing or carpentry. And then they have worked for a shitty boss. excuse my language, for so long that they decide, you know what, like I can go do this on my own, right? And which they can. They absolutely can. They can do the technical skills on their own. But what happens is they go be on their own and they realize that, because this is exactly what happened to me, realize that I'm not only the technician, but now I'm the head of human resources, the head of marketing, the head of sales, right? The head of the financial tracking, the one that orders the materials, and the guy that's on the job site doing the work. And the amount of hats that I had to put on and the amount of time that it took to do all of that was just, it was overwhelming. It was like long days, long weeks, just trying to make sure that everything could function well enough to not go bust.
Yeah.
And so then that technician that then becomes the business owner ends up repeating the exact same behavior of the horrible boss that they just left.
Because they're not focusing on the other pillars of success. They're focusing on the one pillar of the technical success.
Exactly. And they can do it. I could do this technical skill just as good as that guy did it. You know what I mean? How hard would it be to run a business?
Yeah. Now for you, what happened is you had a catastrophic moment that sort of made you consider it. Do you think most solopreneurs, I call them solopreneurs because they're not in that idea of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, but the solopreneur has to go through a catastrophic moment in order to be able to have them rethink and redevelop themselves into a way that they can go better? Or is there a way to shortcut that?
It doesn't have to be. It depends on their self-awareness and their pain tolerance, right? So if they're like me, I had to go through it because I'm stubborn, I'm pig-headed, right? Like I'm stuck in my ways, and so I had to go through a catastrophic change for me to then have my perspective on what I was doing be able to change, right? Because my ego and it's like, oh, I can do this no matter what, and my pride and it's like all of that gets wrapped up that, and then especially in the trades, man, there's it's like we kind of got our ways of doing things, and you have to have a certain ego in order to be in the trades, right? Like otherwise you get pushed aside. It's like it's a bunch of men out there, and you know what I mean, like it's you gotta stand out or you get pushed around.
Well, I think there's a certain point where you have to realize that somebody who's half decent at something can beat somebody who's amazing at something when there's 10 of them and there's one of you.
Exactly.
And so, that's the whole idea of the model that I think we were talking about earlier, that I'd love to flush out a little bit when you talk about the 3 different stages that a person can go through when they transfer from being a solopreneur to being an entrepreneur to being a business owner.
Right. Absolutely. And that concept of being a solopreneur to being an entrepreneur to being a business owner has various growth cycles in it. And when and each one of those growth cycles also has what I call a pirate, a cowboy, and the army. And in those growth cycles, right, every single business, whether it is the solopreneur and then transitioning to the entrepreneur and then transitioning to the business owner, right, like the work that gets done, right, every single business starts out with a product, an idea, or a service. And when they start out, they're literally a pirate. It is sell the product, sell the service, get the work done, no matter what. We got to stay in business. We got to get the gold. We're going to, take whatever phone call comes our way. We're going to, say, oh, yes, we do it. I mean, because that's exactly what I did. Someone would say, hey, do you do concrete? And I'd be like, Yes, absolutely. Do some concrete. You know what I mean? Like, do you do crown molding? I have no idea how to do crown molding. Absolutely, I do crown molding, right? And I would then spend like, the next eight to 10 hours on YouTube, like finding out how to do
How to
crown
cope
molding, and
and
exactly, you know what I mean? Like, and that that pirate stage is like it's hustle. It's literally like hustle and survive, right? And then once the business matures a little bit, then they turn into a cowboy. And the cowboy process is where you would say the cowboy has a certain way of doing things, right?
mm,
And so as the business matures, the business turns into the cowboy and they start doing things a certain way. We only do cabinets and crown molding, right? We're not going to take concrete jobs, right? We only do marketing a certain way, through networks or referrals, right? We only work in a certain time period. We only answer our phones in a certain time period. We always answer the phone the same way, right? And that stage of being a cowboy is actually where the plateau can happen for a lot of business owners. So most people don't understand that the growth is a point of time, right? So
mhm.
Socrates and Plato, right? So Socrates and Plato were having an argument one day, and they're saying Socrates was saying that everything starts at a point in time, and then it grows, and then it hits this plateau, right, of stability,
Mhm.
right, and then eventually it dies. And Plato was like, nah, I don't think you're right about that. I think that there's no such thing as stability. I think that everything starts at a point in time and it grows and it dies. And so when a business is in a growth cycle, right, it is in an upward trajectory. But if there is a plateau at any point, then it is literally not stable. It's just slowly dying. It just has the
Mm.
illusion of stability.
I think that's a really interesting idea around when people look at the steps in growth. Somebody refer this to me before as, a lot of businesses will go to a plateau, but in that plateau, in order for them to elevate, they have to be uh, like a bamboo tree. They're planting their roots, they're watering their seed, they're putting the nutrients in, so that while it looks like it's a plateau, they're actually building the infrastructure so that they can have their next burst. And
Yes,
so through that, in order for them to do that, that's the opposite of kind of what they're both saying, is that in the plateau, if you're not actually planting the seeds, nurturing, watering, nutrients, all that stuff, what's going to happen is you're not realizing, but you're actually doing a decline. So the idea is, in those moments of what seems like a plateau, you need to be planting to be able to grow, or you will invariably decline.
exactly. And planting for businesses is hiring coaches, hiring consultants, reading books, studying up on what business could look like in that next evolution. And there's nothing wrong with being in that, either slowly growing, slowly dying plateau area, right? So a lot of business owners, what they do is they get to the place where they're a cowboy and they're like, okay, cool. Like, I have the income that I want. I have the time schedule that I want. I have the vacations that I want. I have the house that I want. And they're totally cool just skating along that same route, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because growing actually takes being uncomfortable. Growing takes doing something different than you did yesterday. And so our dominant mind pattern wants us to repeat yesterday's because it's safe. If we do exactly what we did yesterday, based on the results, we survived yesterday. So if we do exactly the same thing again today, we're going to survive today. But what happens in that slowly growing, slowly dying cowboy phase is that you can't take advantage of the opportunities that come because you don't have the manpower to be able to take advantage of the opportunities, right? The manpower that is there, unless they're in a same type of stagnation type, I'm okay repeating the same actions for the next 15 years, then there's going to be this churn in the employees, and you'll always have just average employees doing average work, and everybody's just getting by, right? So any high performers are not going to stay in that environment because there's no opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Right. So the next iteration.
Yeah, with the lid of the business, that goes down to lids, right?
Absolutely.
The owner of the business, however big their vision is what's going to allow the people in that business to be able to grow and develop their vision for what their lives look like. And if your lid is too low and your vision is too small, it's not going to be able to fit the visions of the people who are in your organization. And what that's going to do is invariably have them leave.
Exactly. And that's why Brandon Dawson, like I've been following him for about 18 months. I've learned so much from that guy. And then he introduced me to John Maxwell, 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Number one law of the lid, man. Like nobody's going to grow past the leader's belief system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's your responsibility. And with the idea of the pirate is, I mean, we think of a ship on a pirate ship. There's all these people doing these random things. I mean, they can get stuff done. There were some very good leaders in the pirate world. Right. But when you think of the sort of vagabondish pirate, kind of meandering around with their ship, it doesn't have purpose, and it doesn't have consolidation. It doesn't have process. And a lot of businesses operate that way. And then what you were saying is that once they kind of figure out, okay, well, I need some systems and processes, they more move into the cowboy. And well, even though the cowboy existing in the Wild West, they've got things that they do and they got things that they won't do. They've got systems, they've got order. Even if there's chaos around them, they have order within themselves. And that might be, if you look in the back of a truck of a carpenter, they've got all those nice shelving units and everything's in the right spot. They've got order. When they have a systematic way of loading their truck with their tools and unloading their truck with their tools at the job site. They've got a systematic time when they start. They know exactly which coffee shop they're going to go to or not go to. Maybe they bought the coffee machine at the office so they can do that while they're loading up, whatever. But they've got their systems and models. And what you're saying is each of those moments has its benefits. I mean, the pirates are quite wily. They can get into things that most people can't get into. The cowboy's got some systems models, which gives it a lot of value because it can be steady. It can produce predictive results.
Right.
And what you're saying is those people can be very comfortable at that moment as long as they know they're at that moment and they're not thinking there's something else. Because that third phase can also provide massive value if they're ready for it.
Exactly. Yeah, Natalie Dawson says random people doing random things create random results. And do I want random results in my business, or do I want predictable results in my business? Is my environment for my employees stable with random results? No. And so the next iteration of the business, and like going back to pirates, pirates, cowboys, right? So like they have a lot more flexibility as far as I had a tire that I couldn't seat on my riding lawnmower, right? There's 27 tire stores in Santa Rosa. There was only one, and it was a mom and pop shop that would be like, yeah, we could seat that for you, no problem. Because every other one was so standard that it was like, nope, that's not in our SOPs, bro. Right. So there is some benefits to being in that stage, and it really depends on the business owner's life that they want to create. You know what I mean? Like if the business owner is completely happy being in that cowboy stage, you know what I mean? For 5, 10, 20, 30 years, like awesome, But when a business owner wants to grow and wants to scale their business and wants to create a massive business, then that's when the army comes in. And when the army comes in, the army has standard operating procedures for every single thing that it does, from who takes out the garbage to how you clock in, how you clock out, how you show up on the job site, where the tools are and in the van and how they're set up and where everything goes, so that there is a repeatable process for every single thing that it does, because that will create the structure for the business to have those predictable results.
And I think what we do as small business owners, when I had my HVAC business, we had about 20 employees, so we weren't big. And I thought I knew everything when it came to that building an army, because I knew everything when it came to understanding the trades. And what I didn't know was the thing that killed me the most. And I think most people, when they get into running businesses, they don't know what they don't know, which is probably the most dangerous part of the knowledge, part of the growth curve. I always say there's 4 parts to growing and learning something. The first is unconscious ignorance. In other words, you don't know what you don't know. And that's dangerous. Then there's conscious ignorance, is like you've been aware, like, holy crap, I thought I knew this thing. Now I don't. Now you move into conscious knowledge, which means I can now do this, but I have to think every moment that I'm doing it. I'm actively engaged in the task, both physically, mentally, into that moment. And the last thing is unconscious knowledge, which is, like when you're driving a car, sometimes you just don't even think about it. And how did I get from point A to point B? I don't even remember. And that's the process that people have to go through. And if they're going through from the pirate to being the cowboy to being the general of the army, is they really have to say, where am I in my knowledge in each of those categories? And where are my liabilities and where are my opportunities?
Right. Absolutely. Exactly. And being able to have the awareness of taking accountability, and accountability, not right, wrong, good, bad, but a accounting of where exactly a business owner is. You know what I mean? Like, is my marketing dialed in? Is my sales scripts dialed in? Is my customer journey dialed in? Is my operations dialed in? You know what I mean? And, based on the results, right? Like, I always base everything on the result that I created. That way I have an honest assessment, right? So if I think my operations are great and then there's like 5 misses, well, based on the results, it's got some work to do.
Absolutely. Accountability is a wonderful word, because when the way that you used it was really interesting. Using the word accountability and breaking it into it's an account for the ability that you have demonstrated. So it's looking back, it's not judging. It's not saying, did I do a great job, a terrible job? It's just saying, let's make an account of it. Exactly. And then because we've made an account of it, of our abilities, now we can say, what are the systems that we need to implement to then 10x those results?
Exactly. And that's what Brandon Dawson would say, track the data.
Yeah.
The way that he would use that same process, right? So once I account for the data, right, what happened? Did it work? Did it not work? What do I need to adjust in order to make it the process better for next time? It's not, it's like, it's not good, bad, right, wrong. It's, did it work? Great. Let's keep going with it. Did it not work? Great. Let's improve the process.
Yep. Exactly. And not doing that emotional attachment to that outcome, more looking at the data and saying, what's the analytical thing that we need to do to either multiply that success that we've just been having? Because that's just as dangerous. If somebody's walking around going, look at how amazing I am, and not looking at the data and saying, well, there's so much more that you could do, is just as dangerous as saying, oh my gosh, look at how terrible I was. And man, this is awful. Look how much more I could do. Taking the emotion out of it, just saying, look, here's the data. What do we do with it?
Exactly. Yeah. And then taking that data and then taking the and breaking it down, right? So I was at the 9-figure boardroom with Ray Lewis, and Ray Lewis was talking about improving the process, and he was talking about business processes, but he was also talking about the human process, right? So like there's the Steve that is improving his process on becoming a better business consultant and a better podcaster, right? And then there's Russell, who's improving his process of becoming more physically fit and leading others and owning multiple businesses and engineering businesses together so that they can grow and scale as a unit, right? And so it's like breaking down, okay, is the process working? What can I do to improve the process, right? If going to bed at 11 o'clock at night after eating M&Ms and bonbons and watching TV for 4 hours and then waking up in the morning and trying to go to the gym is overwhelming, right? Maybe there's something that I could cut out of my process that makes waking up in the morning to go to the gym a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's processes that we do that are the physical processes, and then the processes that we do that are the metaphysical processes. And the idea of waking up in the morning, I used to never want to get up early in the morning. I went through a phase when I had the construction business, no problem. 4 a.m. every day. When I got out of the construction business, there was no way you're going to get me up in the morning. I would wake up at 9 o'clock. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I put on massive amount of weight, and then I wanted to fix that. Well, we had young kids. There's no way I'm going to be going to the gym at nighttime. So the only time I could do it was at, again, 4:30 in the morning. I had to get up at. So I had to make that metaphysical decision, that brain shift in my process to say, I'm now going to open up that time period as being available. And then I have to back that up with the action of actually committing to that new process.
Right.
And what that did is allow me to build 12 years of experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And all that was just saying, I'm going to get up at 4:30 in the morning.
Exactly. And so tying that back to business, right? So how do you know how to improve the process if you're not tracking the data, right? So one of the things that I just ran out and for my leadership team is this week, everybody is sitting down every 15 minutes. I have a 15-minute like day planner. So every 15 minutes, they write down what they have done over the last 15 minutes so that we can start tracking the data of what they're doing, right? This way, when, it's like, oh, we're working on, estimating. Great. How many hours of estimating did we work on this week? And how many clients did we have? And then what were the results? Because now I have the data to then improve the process.
Yeah, it's so important to gather that data. And it's something that we've been working on very strongly within our podcasting business, is to be able to ensure that we know, how many podcasts are releasing a week, what's the frequency, what's the user consumption, what is the result with the meeting with the guest, how does that turn out, where does that go to, and the more data points that we can gather, the more effective we can really make an informed decision rather than just one based on emotion.
Right. And that's like as somebody grows from the technician to the entrepreneur to the business owner. So the business owner, if I'm too busy wearing all the hats, then I don't have time to track the data.
Absolutely. Too much tied in. That's why when you look at somebody like Mike Tyson, Michael Jordan, we have to choose somebody else not named Michael. Any sports person who's out there. Right. Seem to do well in sports. Any sports person out there, they always have a coach. They always have somebody who's going to challenge them to think outside of the box and to think differently and to look at the data. And then they're not just caught into that moment of how did I feel at that time, or the results that I perceive to be the best results that could be. It's more looking at the data and being analytical about that. And I think that is something super important when we look at the highest performers around.
Absolutely. And then the idea of hiring a coach, right? So like there's levers in business that you can use. And one of those levers points is actually other people's experiences, whether it is a podcast like this one, or like a book, or YouTube videos on business and business systems, or it's hiring a coach. Right. What I found is that I have these ideas. Oh yeah, I'm going to go get all this free information. Right. But then it's like, I haven't spent any money, so I don't have any buy-in for the result. And so then like, I don't end up taking advantage of the free stuff. Right. Yep. And so over the last 18 months, like, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my business education and coaching and masterminds, and putting myself in the position to be molded into an amazing business engineer.
Yeah. And an engineer, it's a good term to use, because an engineer is somebody who, again, focuses on the data. And the idea of a coach, I think you're 100% right, that a coach helps you see the things that you can't see, because they've gone through the things that you haven't gone through yet. And even if they haven't they've done it through proxy with the other people that they're coaching. They're benefiting from the experience of others, just like you're benefiting the experience from them. I was in London, UK, and a very simple coaching mechanism was, when you're getting on the tube, there's that sign that everybody knows that you see. And it's a coaching thing. It just happens to be you're coaching by a sign. It says mind the gap. And that right there is really sums up coaching pretty well, because there's going to be gaps in your business that you won't know. And the coach's idea is that they need to be able to show you those, so that you don't slip, break your ankle, or even worse.
And that you're building the foundation, as far as the business engineering, that you're building the foundation of the business in such a way that when the opportunities come, that you have a structure to be able to take advantage of the opportunities. Because if this foundation is not built well to begin with, and then you have a new opportunity that puts a bunch of cash flow into the business, right? The business has the high likelihood of crumbling, because the foundation to support the new growth wasn't there to begin with.
Absolutely. Now, for people to reach out to you, the best way for them to reach out to you is Russell with 2 S's, 2 L's, Wahl, WAHL _, which is your Instagram. And I know you do a lot of posts there with some great content on your page. I think that's a great thing for people to do, is to reach out to you on your Instagram. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And he's also got his Sonoma County carpentry business as well. So anybody in that area, he's got a wonderful business.
There's a logo right there. If you're in Sonoma County, we're doing a bathroom giveaway. We're doing Christmas in July. Pretty excited about that.
Beautiful. I love it. Now, the thing to close off is I know you went through a starting point very similar to mine. And I know you went through a very difficult time through that absolute tragedy that had happened. And tragedies will come and go. They're going to happen multiple times in our lifetime. And we're going to hit those moments that we're going to decide to either succumb to them, or we're going to decide to get past them. What's the thing that you did or do to get past moments of adversity?
I actually look at what's ahead of me. I look at my goals. I look at the future me. I look at what the future me looks like. And I have such a strong vision of what the future me is, that the adversity stuff is just part of the process. So I've had a coach tell me TTP, right? And so when I get hit with that adversity, right, I just believe that it's part of the process. So TTP, trust the process, right? So that adversity is actually what's going to mold me into the character that I need to be in order to achieve the next evolution of my growth. And so I don't see it as something that is detrimental. I see it as something that is empowering. Like, yes, I get to go through this adversity, right? I get to have my employees quit. I get to have an employee make $120,000 mistake. And I get to walk through that, because as I do that, it's going to produce the results in the growth in me to prepare me for whatever the next evolution is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you look at that and you look at adversity is not a detriment. Adversity is an instrument. And that instrument is going to help you either dig a grave for yourself or dig yourself a foundation for a palace. And you get to choose what that's going to be. And I think that's an amazing perspective. Russell, it's been an absolute pleasure, man, chatting with you. Your story is amazing, and it's great to see you come through, a very similar thing that I've done, and to be able to become the person you are. So thank you very much for being on the show today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a pleasure.
And today, guys, this is the money, this is the mindset, this is the mentoring podcast. Thank you very much for joining us in this one. We will see you on the next one.